Hello and welcome. You're watching Head to Head. I'm Carrie Oderman with UATV. The Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine supported in the second reading a bill which cancels state funding for political parties that gain between 2 and 5% of the votes in parliamentary elections. The document also provides a restart of the National Agency for Prevention of Corruption. To talk more about this, we welcome to our studio today Vita Dumanska, the coordinator of the anti-corruption watchdog called Chesno.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today. Let's dive right in. This law is on its second reading, which means it will be presented to President Zelensky to be signed,
Yes.
and then it will come into effect. You were at the committee hearings as a member of civil society talking about what might not be such a good idea about this legislation. Let's start at that point.
You see, that law was crucially important because we see that National Agency of Corruption Prevention is not efficient. They do not perform very well. That's why they have to be relaunched and renewed. But at the same time, they added like 2 small chapters in that draft law, which are decreasing financial support to the parties 2 times and canceling financial support to small parties, as you said.
Can I interrupt you there? So the law was initially just about the anti-corruption agency,
yeah, that was the
and
main...
these were tagged onto it about the political parties. So this wasn't initially planned.
Yeah, you see, in all those information and material regarding the law, you can find any word about political parties. That was aimed to reload of the National Agency of Corruption Prevention by not. I don't think that was done by the chance, but they have 2 chapters about these parties and funding of the parties. Like civil society organization and also Chesno, we were against these 2 chapters because we monitor and we observe a lot of issues which have to be changed in terms of state support of the party, in terms of party finance and campaign finance. And we developed like additional draft law which can fix all those stories. But they added 2 small chapters and dramatically changed the situation.
So now, for our viewers that might not be familiar, the Verkhovna Rada is a 1-chamber legislative body here, and it has a 5% cutoff, which means political parties, as part of the mixed proportional representation here, under 5% are not represented in the Verkhovna Rada. However, in the past, the parties with 2 to 5%, even though they weren't represented, it was seen that they had enough support from the public that they should have some support.
Yeah, you
financially.
See, starting from 2015, that was decided, and starting from the next parliamentary election, those small parties who will get more than 2% will be eligible for funding. So starting from this election, they have to get something from the state budget. So that's normal stuff because you are like you are developing small party, you are increasing competition, and they, thanks to this state support, can grow, can work with their voters, with groups of the interested, and can compete on the next parliamentary elections. And you also have to take into account very important point. If state doesn't support small party, they will need to survive, and they will ask for support from the oligarch. So the mechanism of state support was introduced due to preventing a strong oligarch impact on Ukrainian politics and Ukrainian political parties. But now, if we have this small amount, that's actually not enough for party to normally operate. I am like aware that we are not able to provide support to make party operating like for the full time, but you have to give some cost for developing regional structure, for analytics, for work with the voters. But they also have to fundraise. We understand that. But we have like such a bad legislation. In Ukrainian reality, as a political party, you are not able to fundraise because when in Europe or US, you just can support your like party you are in favor through website or send a check. In Ukraine, it doesn't work. You have to print out big form that you don't have the tax debt. You have to go to the post office or to the bank office, submit that form, your tax ID and passport, and afterwards you only can make a donation. So normal voters who would like to support the party will not follow that procedures.
So it would have made sense if in the legislation that was taking the funding away from small parties, this point would have been addressed to make it easier for fundraising for the small parties.
Yeah, so you see, they are just taking off the financial support of the party, but there are like more problems which would have to be solved to make party life easier and make them representing interests of the people. So you have to not only take off the state support, but you have to create opportunities for fundraising. You have to create opportunities for their work in the region. There was a big discourse about that support cost the internet party of Shari that's supposed to get financial support from the budget.
Because they received 2%, 3%?
Yeah, they received more than 2% and supposed to got, using data from previous formula, about 20 million hryvnias. But the issue is that we are working in that area from 2016, and basically people were not interested in who is financing the political party, how the state funding is operating. But when we had this case with Shari party, everybody started to protest in the Facebook. That was like big campaign that they were talking that I am not willing to support that party from my taxes paid to the budget. And this caused this discourse, and the Servant of the People Party decided, I think based on that, to take off state support to the small parties.
Now, there's two ways to look at this. Because it was an internet-based party, was there any fear? Was it pro-Russian, am I understanding correctly what their platform was? Or was it hard to say?
It's hard to say, but their leader is out of Ukraine. And they have, if you're watching their stuff in the internet, you're starting to hate Ukraine from the, probably from the second minute when you're watching it. But here the problem, not only in so if they think that it's pro-Russian party, so state security service should take care about that. But the state support of the party is not a mechanism to solve this problem. So
that's an excellent point. In other countries, they also have bodies that look at the party's platform. If it's a hate party or inciting some type of violence, it's taken care of by a policing mechanism and not the government. So what is now going to happen to the small parties? They have their 10 million. Did each party under 5% and between over 2% get about the same amount?
No.
Was it prorated?
They are getting amount proportionally to the amount of votes they got at the parliamentary election. According to new formula represented by the president, for example, Svoboda party got the lowest amount. They got about 6 million hryvnias. The same with the Shari party. The biggest amount will go to Sluga Narodu, and they got more than 100 millions from state budget. But there is one more issue. Last week, Dmytro Razumkov, who is the Speaker of the Ukrainian Parliament, told that we don't have enough money in state budget to support political parties. But I think that's manipulation, because they are covering cost invested in the campaign, and it's about 460-something millions that will be reimbursed to those political parties who are in the parliament now. So if your motivation is decreased, campaign cost, you have to do something with that, but not pay and not cover all the expenses. You see, if you have money to cover expenses and you don't have money to finance a political party, if we are stopping this mechanism, we will be among a couple of countries in the world which do not support their political parties. Not so many countries do not support, Belarus among them. So that was progressive democratic initiative, and now we are going making one step back. I don't think that's a good practice.
And that's a great way to end this. Not the best practice, but let's hope that legislation catches up with the legislation that will now go to President Zelensky. Thank you for joining us. That was Vita Dumanska, the coordinator of Chesno Anti-Corruption Watchdog. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more.